the Greek's hungry and he needs a kebab. So he goes in the kebab shop and he starts ordering, kebab and chips. And, you're not from here. And he says, no, I'm from Dallas, came for the match. Like, what, you came for the match? And he's like, yeah, and they just could not believe that somebody had just come in that morning for the match, and they were going to leave the next day. And they're like, no, mate, we're going to buy this, and they bought him kebab and chips, and then they came out. And then, man, that Dallas Spurs sports flag, it is a beautiful flag, and it is a magnet. And they're like, yo, let's take a picture, and, take a picture of us, the flag outside of a kebab shop, and it, goes up on Twitter, and it was everywhere we went. Rob White and Martin and all these people so incredibly gracious, and I as I mentioned last night, I genuinely feel made friends for a lifetime this past weekend, and it's just unbelievable. It's just unbelievable.
So I think the moral of the story is have Flagville travel and get into many great places.
Yeah, it's a bit like, yeah, for sure. It's like, yes, without question. That flag, we took pictures of it at the Irish Center. I felt like Mick Jagger. I mean, it was unbelievable.
I can't wait to do that in May.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't sign any bald heads, but it was just remarkable. Everybody was just so genuinely taken aback and wanted to be a part of that. And as Vass said in his article, it doesn't really matter where you're from. The love for this club brings out this incredible family feel. And
it's amazing too, just because I decided to start a podcast, and I brought you two on with me, which was the smartest thing I've ever done in recent history. And I keep hearing from people on Twitter. It started with our friend Ollie Wadhams over there, who runs some incredible fan pages on Facebook.
Oh, I'm sick about missing him. Gosh, I'm so sorry.
You were at the ground with him, and
I know. We just
never hooked up.
The Billy Nick, and he was I think he was at the Brickies, and just a mess.
Yeah, and it's very interesting to me that this whole family concept that this seems to have. It doesn't matter if you're from the United States or from England or from Ireland or Scotland or India or wherever it is that you're coming to a game from. It is, as Daniel had mentioned a couple of weeks ago, one badge, one club, and it's a big giant family. Talking to Ollie, he said, and I thought he was joking, he was like, Ken, you have no idea. He said, I severely doubt you'll ever buy a drink. People are going to be all over you guys.
Yes.
It is you have no idea what it means that people are over in the States supporting the club that we've been supporting since we were little boys, because of the coverage and everything that it's allowed it to do. And I thought he was busting my chops a little bit and didn't really think much of it until I've had follower after follower after follower tell me the same exact thing on direct messages on Twitter.
It's not BS at all. It's not BS at all.
So when May comes, it may not take me getting to the ground to get emotional, to feel that kind of a connection with something, more so than I have with any other sports club that I've ever supported over here in the States.
Yep.
Already, I've never done this for an NFL team. I've never done this for a baseball team or anything like that. This is my club. This is my sport. I don't watch anything as much as I do the English Premier League and soccer in general. Football, whatever. I still follow the Serie A. I still follow Liga 1. I watch beIN religiously for all of the football that I can take in. But this is the club that I fully support. And since I've met Simon, the last 2 years have been an education, and it's because of him and how much he knows about this club. And if anybody doubts how much that man knows about this club, they need to really check themselves, because he knows a ton.
Yeah,
More from him on suggested reading material, information that he shared with me, photographs, news clippings, stories, and I take it all in and I absorb it like a sponge, because I'm trying to make up for 46 years of not, or 44 of supporting them for 2 full time, and I cannot wait to experience May there.
Yep. Well, you were talked about constantly, and people were very they were so incredibly curious about this incredible passion that you have, right? That comes over so clearly on this cast, but only following the club for a couple, 3 years. People just thought that was absolutely remarkable. So they're lined up. They're lined up yards deep to hold your hand. When you go into White Hart Lane, and I'll be there with a cry camera. Duddy will be there with tissues, and it'll be amazing. It'll be absolutely amazing.
I'll have to remember to pack extra content.
Daniel Wynn is high on that list, if not top of the list. And that guy, what a prince of a guy he is. So very quickly after the match, we agreed to meet up on the Worcester Road side on the the West Stand, and it was so cool. I was almost like running to him. I was like, we did it, big hug, and he introduced us to some great people. He introduced us to David Gold. He introduced us to Paul. Oh, what's Paul's last name? Oh, my mind's gone blank. He is a
stadium announcer, right?
Yes, Paul's stadium announcer, and then David's the guy that is responsible for letting Daniel know who the subs are. I mentioned this last night. Hotspur Ale. I knew.
Oh yes.
I knew that we were going to win on Friday night when we stumble into some sexy fancy craft brew pub, and there it was. This tap said Hotspur Ale. Actually, had a Star David on it, and Mike's a bit of a beer aficionado. He goes and looks it up, and sure enough, it's from Tottenham, and it was damn good beer. So when we were 1-0 down, I didn't worry too much. I mean, I really didn't. It was so surreal. I don't know. I was on a mission from God, I guess, like the Blues Brothers.
And we had the same feeling in the pub. We went 1-0 down, but we went 1-0 down to Chelsea, and we absolutely beat the living tar out of them the rest of the match. And statistically and everything that we saw on the pitch, we battered Arsenal. And there were interviews with people after the match on YouTube and whatnot, even through Arsenal Fan TV. Dare I mention them on this podcast? But when he was interviewing Tottenham fans, and there were men giddy as schoolboys who were saying, I have been coming to this ground since the mid-'60s, and I've never ever seen us do you lot like we just did.
Right.
We
coming on
dominated that game. And even Arsenal fans have gone on, and I think I posted something on Twitter. This one gooner put a good 5-minute pod talking about how Tottenham wanted it more. Wenger made all the wrong moves. Pochettino made him look foolish by the moves that he made. Talked about the tenacity that Bentaleb and Mason and our holding midfield played. Yeah. They wanted it more. The whole premise of his 6-minute rant was how Tottenham wanted this more from their fans. He even called out their section of the fans.
Oh, they were terrible. The only thing I noticed them doing was trying to sing, he's one of our own, to Harry Kane. Look, 3 academy players coming from 1-0 down, playing beautiful pressing football, fast-paced, just running them off the park, and that was so evident there. I don't know whether that transcended on the TV screen. I sense it probably did. But it certainly did in the stadium, and that's what I said. I just kind of feel like, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but there's change there's change. It's happening. You're letting the right people be in charge and do what they're good at. No. And 23.6 years average age of our starting 11. Oh my God, Scenes. Are you kidding me? That's amazing.
Over the last 10 matches, I think I saw, I can't remember the guy's name, posted it in the Dallas Spurs members page, and I reposted it on Twitter. Over the last 10 matches, Tottenham lead the EPL in points.
24?
Yeah, with 24. Over the
form chart, Chairman? Form chart? What does the form chart say?
The form chart says we are second with 13 points from our last 6. 1 point behind, you guessed it, the Bin Dippers.
Unbelievable.
So it will be an interesting game tomorrow, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, preview that game.
Yes, during the match, we kind of started discussing personnel a little bit. Everything seemed right with me. Dyer for Fazio, a lot of people wondered. They said it was for speed reasons, and it turned out to be absolutely the right call. Dembele in the number 10 role, though. I know that everybody's had a chance to go back and maybe watch this match. I think maybe, Sam, even you, apart from seeing it live, I've watched it 3 times. Simon, I want to get your idea on Dembele in that number 10 role. Is it the best option right now?
I'm not sure if it's the best one, and I know I wasn't overly complimentary to his performance yesterday. I didn't slag him off by any stretch of the imagination, but I felt that a lot of the time he was going backwards, sideways. But then I watched the match again last night, And you know what? He was spraying passes from the middle out, particularly to Danny Rose on the left in the first half. Rose had a couple of shots himself. One, Ospina managed to turn around the post, and one was narrowly wide. Mm-hmm. So I kind of take that back. I think he was effective in that game, and I think he did well, probably a little better than he had the week before against West Brom. We talked about this yesterday, that maybe Chadley should have started and given us a bit more width on the left. But it was highly effective in the first half. We did press. We found a lot of space on the left, which the commentators over here made a good point of that. I think it was Arlo White and Owen Hargreaves, which was refreshing to hear Owen Hargreaves versus the normal Lee Dixon or Graham Lasso. No disrespect to those two fellas. So I wouldn't say he was as ineffective as I originally thought. It is good to watch the game a second time, because your emotions of what's going on in the match, the first time you watch it, you're not absorbing every little bit of detail. So, in hindsight, I thought he was effective. I really can't fault anyone in that game. Seeing Dyer, I think there was something going on in the first half. It may have been when Welbeck took that shot that Hugo palmed. So that was second half, sorry. When Hugo palmed that shot away around the post that was clearly going in, Dyer turned around and he was giving someone the verbals. So for someone his age, showing that leadership was phenomenal. I read in one of the papers today that Harry is assuming a leadership role, and in one of the pre-match huddles, it may have been this Saturday, he was the one doing the talking. So it's not just about he's one of our own and he's banging in goals left, right, and centre. He's stepping up and being a leader on the pitch, and I think that's where we're starting to see the impact. Is this team is standing up for each other. They're holding themselves accountable, and as well as the rest of their teammates. Yep. But there's none of this indifference or infighting that we saw last season. If you remember when it was going Pete Tong for Tim Sherwood, and Vertonghen's body language and just some of the sloppy play, and they would just, heads would drop and the floodgates would open and we'd get battered. So
I remember sitting in the pub and we would see them in the tunnel before they would walk out and they looked defeated.
Exactly. So Potter certainly made an impact. And again, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We said this before. We were awesome against Chelsea. We made a couple of errors in the game. And then the next league match, we go get turned over by Palace. Granted, the new manager effect with Pardew played a big role in that, and we let in again a sloppy goal, and heads dropped a little bit in that game. However, Leicester game aside, different dynamics. Not the first team out there, but last week against West Brom, this week against Arsenal. I think we've got to start playing a pretty much unchanged team and give them the opportunity to put a string of results together. And I really hope it's the same team that we see, with maybe Chadley out on the left and Eriksen shoved in the middle. I think that would be my starting 11.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hey, look, you mentioned this last night, and I had a chance to, this guy, Mark, it's like the third or fourth week in a row I've bigged him up. He's unbelievable. His work, his analysis.
Spurs fanatic.
Oh, my gosh. It's so freaking good. And, he talks about what they did. They stretched the field. It was genius, putting Eriksen so far on that far left. And there was purpose behind it, and how we just abused them down the left side, and it was just, I agree with you. I think Dembele was, at first blush, you probably didn't think too much about him in that role, but I think if you go back and look, I think you're right. I think it's worth sticking with that lineup and seeing where it takes us.
I don't know. It doesn't work for me. And
really?
It doesn't. I'm sorry. I'm going to be devil's advocate here, because for me, every time I saw him touch the ball, I think he is the best player we have at holding the ball up. But when he receives a ball, his first touch, how many of them were heavy? And he lost a lot of possession about 20 to 25 yards out. I'm not slagging him off. He is in great form right now, and he did create some chances for us. He had a couple of shots. He actually shot the ball once with his right foot. I almost fell out of my chair, because he is the most one-footed player I think, of anybody that we have in the attacking force. If he can't hit the ball with his left foot, he's not going to hit the ball. And when he took that shot with